Um, good morning. No, good afternoon. Sorry. Day 24. I was completely confused with the days. So I wrote day 22 and then I thought, like, that doesn't feel right. So, anyway, day 24 today. Um, uh, Today I want to talk about the fact that we create our reality. And this is quite a confusing topic for the mind because it's hard to grasp. And it's not really necessary to grasp the scientific details of it. I'm not going to share you much on that. But it will be really helpful to understand how things appear in your life, the way they appear. Because if you know how that works, you can see that there is a lot of influence on that process, which is really, really amazing, actually. So the statement "we create our realities" is our reality is something that has been confirmed by quantum physics, and it has taken almost a decade by many scientists to prove actually what either Bohr said or Einstein said, and later Bell said, all scientists who have been working on that in the 20th century. What it actually is, does reality exist or not? I mean, does an object exist already before you see the object or not? Does the moon exist if we don't see the moon? And the conclusion in the end is, after many years of research, that in essence, we can only create reality when two particles, which are kind of waves, come together and form the reality the observer wants it to be. So that's quite a difficult sentence. Just one step back. Everything in life consists of energy. It's all vibrating energy. So all vibrating waves. Everything in life, everything that's seen to us as a material is just vibrating energy. We humans are vibrating energy. And we all just consist of particles swimming around until something brings us together and forms an object, or is perceived as an object by the observer. So that's in very short terms what the theory is about and how actually life works. And I'll tell you later that you really can test it yourself. It really works like that. So what happens is that every single nanosecond, or whatever smallest version of a second, we actually constantly, as humans, create life with our mind. We create, not life, but we create reality with our mind. So without our mind, there's no reality, which is almost impossible to believe. But a little exercise, like if you sit in pure peace, in pure essence, in your being, in your presence awareness, and there's no mind at that moment, and you look at an object in your room or outside, and then notice that first a thought comes up if you look at the object that defines it. I'm looking at a tree. So the eye sees something, and that interacts with the brain, and that confirms that what it sees is a tree, because somewhere in his memory this tree has been seen before, and or the tree hasn't been seen before. We kind of combine the information together, and then it creates a tree again. So what you could actually say is that, why does reality, our daily reality, looks always the same? Is because we all humans are a compilation. Is that the right word? We all consist of patterns, thinking patterns, belief systems, everything that's in our whole body system, and everything that's in our consciousness for many, many ages is creating the same reality all over and over again. So it's really hard to create a complete new reality with completely new things, because as you are the observer creating the reality, what is it then that you're creating? You have to create something completely new, which doesn't exist before. But then your mind will also think like, okay, what does this look like? It will probably trying to look back at something which is familiar to the new creation. So getting to the pure essence of this is really, really difficult to grasp. And that's not really important. Just accepting that it is already helps in the first step to understand why things happen in your life the way they happen. So as I said before, every human being has a number of belief systems, patterns, things that are real to that person, that feels as normal, that feels as true, that feels as our reality is natural to them. So every time you're just repeating these patterns, that's what you create in life, that's what you see in life. So if you are convinced of a limiting belief within yourself, like you're convinced that you are not good at mathematics, because someone in the past told you you're not good at that. You have this other aspect, this confirmation bias, that you are constantly in your life proving yourself that you're not good at maths. Because that once you've believed that, you're actually recreating that confirmation. So you because it's in your system as a disbelief, you're not even open to the fact that you might be excellent at this topic. No, you already think that you're not good at it. So you also create a reality that you're not good at it. And then you get a confirmation, and then the pattern repeats. Just to take another example, perhaps that helps as well, is if you look at how Facebook works. For instance, the algorithms Facebook uses. I am 100% sure that my Facebook timeline looks completely different, or the posts are shown to me by Facebook are completely different to one of yours. Because Facebook just looks at what I'm interested in, the sponsored links, the paid links, and the friends I react to most. And that's what shows up again and again and again and again. So if I'm suddenly click on something like I'm interested in getting a healthier body, and I once click on that and read the article, then Facebook will show me the next day or the same day more posts like that related to the same subject. So suddenly my whole Facebook shows me like, well, might be interesting for you to look at your health and your body. And that's actually the same how life is created for yourself and how events are happening. So what you want to see is what you get to see. What you believe in is what's reflected back. And this is not just seeing with the eyes, like I observe something and then that's created and that's the only thing that matters. No, it includes everything within your unconscious, subconscious system that's also sending out signals. We already talked that everything is energy. So that's also sending out signals and creating and confirming this reality. So if you're with a positive mind, convinced you want to change your idea on something, you want to change your lack belief on something, your limiting belief on something, then just creating positive thoughts really helps. But if there's something underneath it that's constantly actually telling yourself like, well, I don't really believe it. I would love to believe it, but I don't really believe it. Then you're still sending out signals what you don't believe. So you're not getting the results of the actual new situation you want to create. So for instance, you want to become pregnant. And as soon as you want to become pregnant, I don't know if any one of you have experienced it or know it or can remember it, but as soon as you want to become pregnant, you have the desire everyone around you is pregnant. You only see people who are pregnant. Now that's not a theme anymore. I hardly ever see people who are pregnant. Of course, I see them every now and then, but not like everywhere around me when I was focused on becoming pregnant. And the first time I wanted to become pregnant for my first child, when I was around 30 years old, I wanted so desperately to become a mother, in the sense like it was not from this intrinsic desire to become a mother. It was more like, no, of course I become a mother, and I'm from a family of 4, and I also want to have a family of 4, and it was coming from more like a control system, thinking like that's how it's supposed to be, almost like a belief system. Of course I create a family. That makes sense to me, because that's what my sister did, that was my brother did, so of course I will create a family. And of course there's always almost in any woman there is a wish to become a mother, but for me it very strongly became from the sense like, no, I want to make sure that in my life I have a family. So the first time becoming pregnant and seeing all the pregnant friends and women around me, it took me, I don't know, more than a year to become pregnant, because I was so focused on it. But underneath that, there was this fear within me, like, what if it doesn't succeed? What if I'm just not able to be pregnant? What if it doesn't work like that? But there's a problem in my body that I cannot become pregnant. And this fear actually was also playing part in the fact that it took me a really long time to become pregnant, because after the first child, it went way easier. I actually had 4 pregnancies, of which 2 didn't succeed in the end and broke off within 3 months. But after that, there was never a long time to wait for this pregnancy to become real. Because this fear, I already had 1 child. There was no fear for me, like my body is not working now. I was convinced now my body was working, so that was not a problem anymore. I just then wanted to have a 2nd child. So I wanted to become pregnant again, and a 3rd child. So it's not just the desire to want something. That's how you create your reality. You need to want it, to believe in it, to be convinced, to be completely, with your whole system, know that that's what you want. And then it will be created. And that's how synchronicity appears in your life. So once you're fully aligned with what you want and what you desire, then synchronicities show up. And every one of you has had the experience of synchronicities. Only often it's just called as a coincidence, which is not important, an irrelevant coincidence. But it's actually a synchronicity. You put things together because you want it to happen as an observer. You want it to happen in your life. And you can never really design how you want to create, how it's created. So you can never, with your mind, define how it looks like. You can only sense the quality of what you would like to receive, what you would like to be manifested in life. Because if you create it with your mind, like, I want to have this and it looks like this, like I want to have a car and it must be red and it must be fast and it must look like a Tesla or whatever, then it's not eventually the Tesla you will get, but it is the feeling which you would like to have that comes with having this fast car. And that can turn out in a very different way. But that doesn't really matter then, because that's not what it is about. It's not you wanting to create or to control the process of having this car, but it's a process of gaining something in your life, a new experience or a new situation, a new creation that fulfills your life. So that's on the positive side, if you really go into empowerment and manifestation and really, from your core essence, create your reality. And it doesn't happen in a single second moment. Sometimes there is, between this desire and the actual manifestation, it can take weeks, months, sometimes even a year. But in between that period, lots of things come together that lead you up towards that direction. And it's not one straight line. It's like a line that goes like this. But just one step back, why do things that you don't like in life happens to you in a repetitive way? Why do things come back in your life which you don't really like? With almost certainty, I could say that it is because there's some pattern within you that either has a strong disbelief about it or a strong belief about it, that it is a reality like that it's a truth like that. So if you have a sense of unworthiness about something, like you feel, I would love to have a loving relationship, but I always seem to attract the wrong man who turn out, or the wrong women who turn out to give me a disbalanced relationship, then there might be a belief system within you of this, perhaps a sense of unworthiness of having a healthy, beautiful relationship. And this is just an example. Perhaps a strong one, but it's one that a lot of people struggle with. Finding a new partner after a breakup. So if you really want to change your life, you have to look at all these different layers. That's why I've been talking about belief systems, or it has come up many times, which is so unconsciously in our system. there and seen and believed and felt as a truth. Any belief system, whether it's a personal experience or a belief system from your family or a belief system from the society, it's the same pattern that repeats itself. And because this is a really creating a reality is really an extreme perspective on life, because it's not something you can just accept as a new perspective and integrate in your life, and then everything happens the way you like to have it happen. No, it's very subtle at a very detailed level. But accepting that it is working like that, for me at least, has already changed my life so much. So much flow in that in my life that just things happened I could not have planned. I could not have thought I could not have thought of bringing these things together on such a synchronistic way. So it takes a lot of patience to just keep confirming and reconfirming and focusing with intention on your heart desire, what you would love to happen. And don't expect to happen it tomorrow, but then just let it go and surrender to what life shows you, what's reflected back. And then be very subtle in the reflections you get back. And then you have to sense what feels good and what doesn't feel good, what resonates, what doesn't resonate with this heart desire. And then you have a lot of distractions. Do you really believe your heart desire, or is there still a lack belief underneath? And if there's still a lack belief, then you can be sure that life shows you a distraction. Like, are you sure you believe this? Because you could now take this turn or let go of that heart desire and fall back in your old patterns. If you're a little bit skeptical about you create your own life, your own reality, then take an example and play with it. Like, for instance, we all believe, I think in this group, that the earth is round. Well, there's a new wave of people who believe that the earth is flat. And if you Google on it and search on it on YouTube or whatever, you will soon receive a lot of information that confirms that the earth is flat. So from the people who believe that perspective, that the earth is flat, in their reality, and there's a lot of evidence there that the earth is flat. I don't want to get into those details, but there is really evidence like, okay, could be true. But still, I've been brought up with the knowing or with the belief that the earth is round. So you have then two sides. You have one side who said the earth is flat and one side who said the earth is round. And then it's up to you to decide which one you believe, and that's the one that's still your reality. And if you choose now, switch to the one now the earth is flat, then from that moment on, you'll only be confirmed in the fact that the earth is flat, because that's what you create in your reality. If it really is a strong belief, then you only receive confirmations. because that's what the mind is looking for. Confirmation of the same pattern from the past, or the same belief system from the past, even if it was the past just an hour ago. So it's very tricky here to constantly be open to everything and just only sense to what resonates. Because information these days is never a full truth. There's always a different perspective, like we talked about in another session. But if it creates part of our reality, then do we really want that? And then we have this other, because when I talk with people about you create your reality and they don't want to believe it, they say like, how is it possible that a person in Africa creates it reality and wants to be born in a country where there's no food and dies of starvation? But then we go back to the collective consciousness. If we as a human have our belief system and our patterns and our lack beliefs and our past within our system, as a collective consciousness we have as well. So we are, as a collective consciousness, repeating these completely negative situations. And it's another topic why a soul chooses to be born in Africa, or a soul chooses to be born in a Western healthy country. That's not for now, but theoretically, if we would all these billions of people on this earth would believe a different reality on earth, at the same time, we would see a different reality. It's almost like a movie. We're now part of movie Earth as it is today in 2019. And it's a result of many, many episodes that started ages ago, centuries ago. And it all consists of separate pictures, separate realities created. As a collective consciousness. And of course, it's too much to ask to change Earth. I mean, if we could find that one, that would be easy. It's kind of the red and the blue pill from the Matrix. But just take it back in very small proportion to your own life. What is it that you keep creating in your life that you actually don't really want? Look at that thing. What is it that I don't want here? What is that I still believe that I create this? And it's not the thing that you can change often, because sometimes things are just too complicated to change if the situation is complex. But if you take something lighter, like for instance, now I have to learn a new language. There's absolutely a belief system within me that I'm not good at learning languages. So I'm postponing, postponing, postponing. So guess what? The first attempt I made felt really difficult to me because I already went there with the idea that I was not good at languages. But if I want to change that for myself, I have to literally reprogram myself and tell myself that I'm good at languages. I'm excellent at learning languages. Which honestly say, I haven't done so far, so I'm still postponing. And time is running up almost. I really have to start learning language, a new language, Spanish. And most of the things, if you want to look back at your life where things went just automatically well, like naturally well, like of course, that was not an issue for me. Becoming pregnant, I was pregnant within 1 month. Just try to think back. Perhaps pregnancy is not a good example, but just try to think back of something which just went natural for you. It was like, for another person, it might have been a difficult decision or a difficult change, but for you, it just went. It always happens like that. Like you always have this luck factor in this. If you look at that, then you probably don't have any resistance on, not any resistance on it, not any disbelief on it, not any lack belief, not any unworthiness on it. It just is. And it always has been just a given for you. So that's what you see as something that goes easy. But that is because that's what you create easily again. And because it feels good, you keep recreating it. And other people might say, like, you're always so lucky at that. You're always so good at that. Good in the sense like it always turns out well for you or easy for you. And just a small note on my example of pregnancy. Of course, this is not applicable to persons who have physically in their body an issue with becoming pregnant, and there's another problem. But for me, that was obviously not the case. So on the one hand, this is a topic that's really grand and overwhelming and hard to grasp, and like, okay, what can I do with it tomorrow? That seems almost impossible. But on the other hand, if you just take little tiny things, and be really careful not to get the mind involved, because as soon as the mind gets involved and want it to happen, it doesn't happen. It only happens if it feels completely natural to you. Like there's nothing in the way. And it helps to work with little things to to receive proof that it works now differently. So then it's more easy to take upon bigger things you would like to change in life and see that happen. So my message with this session is this is just one of the, in my terminology, foundations of how nature works. For me, it's more like it's a given. It's not something I work with or I'm conscious of every day. Not at all. But because it's a given, like, okay, this is one of laws nature. It's one of the laws in nature. I know that when something is not going in flow, I know there's something to look within myself. Like, hey, what's holding me back here? Is there something that there's a lack belief or anything that just isn't right, or doesn't really resonate for me? So it's a disbalance on that level. I thought I wanted to happen, but I didn't really want it to happen. Like for 2 years, I actually wanted to go into organizations and change the new paradigm, change organization from old to new paradigm. And there was always this inner voice within me like, do I really want that? I like the idea. I love the concept. And I honestly believe that that's what companies need. I still do. But I don't see myself doing it because it didn't resonate for me to have that role somewhere deep inside. I wanted it, but there was always this like friction within myself. And obviously, 2 years long, nothing moved. So this is just one of the foundations that I hope you are able to take as a given, not as a truth, but more like, okay, let's just see how it works for me. At least try it out with something small. And this theory of the scientists trying to find proof in the 60s and 70s, well, they started early 1900. And then in the 70s, there were scientists more coming from an esoteric, spiritual background, wanting to prove it from the other side. Like, if this quantum theory is true, then telepathy and clairvoyance and things like that are really true. So they needed the proof actually from the other side. So that's where spirituality or esoteric movement connected with scientific movement on what is reality. And then later on it was deepened in CERN, Switzerland. So it's a topic that has not been, well, now it is mainstream in, I believe, school books. At least they have put some attention to, in high schools, to quantum physics. But in my time, I can't remember we talked about quantum physics. And now it's more an actual topic, because it really is like this big question: how does reality appear? What is reality? And if we create reality, we can change reality. That is exciting and fearful at the same time. Because what is it that is behind the force of creation? But that's again on meta level. If you want to know more about these topics, there's lots to find on the internet. But there's also many books from different perspectives, of course, you can find about it. But it's all theory if you don't experience it. Just go, if you still believe that everything is just a coincidence, then open up to the fact that coincidence is not the same as synchronicity. And synchronicity definition is actually that two things come together which are not related to each other from the perspective of the observer. So like it's a coincidence that the things come together. And it's unexpected. But if you can embrace synchronicity, then that actually brings you into flow. So you go from one synchronistic event to the next synchronistic event, etc., etc. And if it's aligned with yourself, it's a flow that feels good. But then you have to let go of all control, all mind control of wanting that something has to happen because you are attached to the outcome. So I completely get it if it really gets complex now. Because I first had the subject of control, and I had the subject of belief system, and then we now create realities. And it's kind of a lot to take in. So it would really help me, and most of all yourself, because I've touched upon so many different topics, that if there's anything that still is not clear, or it just keeps coming back like, I don't really get it, or it's still nagging somewhere, or what's the purpose of it, or whatever it is, doesn't really matter. Just share it, or share it with me personally. And then I can see if I can put a different light on it, or repeat it. And it will all come back. I mean, we're on day, what was it? 24. So it will all come back because it's all interconnected with each other. But if it stops you now from keeping yourself open, then it helps to just share it. And I get back to the topic again. A bit longer session than I expected. Okay, I think it's okay for now. And I'll see you back tomorrow. Bye.